Hello everyone. Uh, Scope of variables, and there are types of scopes. We will discuss about primarily like local scope as well as global scope with some examples. So that would be much clear. So first we would be discussing about local variables. Then we will go to global variables, and we will look into some examples to just understand the importance of local variables and global variables. Moving further, we'll try to understand what is scope first of all. Scope is defined as the extent of the program code within which the variable can be accessed or worked with. So what does that mean? Now you have a block of code. Suppose, for example, you have something like this, a block of code. Now it says that if you define something, a variable here, how long that variable is going to be accessed and how long that variable is being available in the program. That is what which are trying to discuss here in the definition of the scope. So it says like the extent of the program code within which the variable can be accessed or you can work on it. So now we will discuss, we will just take a small example here. Don't worry, I'll discuss about local variables and global variables in depth in the further concept. But this is just an example demo to demonstrate what is local variable and global variable. Now these are fine. We have already discussed these. So we are just including, because we are using cout here, we have to just use iostream package, and we are using namespace std because that is mandatory to use, or else you have to do it manually each and every time whenever you're using some variables, I mean some functionalities from the other packages. So instead of using std multiple times, you include that namespace. So once you just include, and you don't need to include it anywhere, because or else you should have written std here multiple times. Even for endln, you should have written like this. So to avoid this, we just include the namespace once. That is what we have done here. Now moving forward, this is how global variables are declared. So global variables, you generally declare it outside of main block, outside of all the functions. So it's just like once you declare your package, this is where you declare your global variable. I mean outside of your main block or any other function. This is called as global variable. This is just like the same variable. I mean, how we have declared variables till now inside the main function. We just said like int x is equal to 5 or something like that. This is also the same declaration. So variables are exactly the same. We are just discussing the scope here, how scope varies, how local scope varies from global scope. That is what we are trying to discuss here. Now here inside main function, we are declaring a local variable. Now why this is called as local variable? Because this variable, in further examples it would be much clear. Now this variable would be accessible only within this block. This is called as block. Now anything starting from this opening curly braces and ending curly braces, that is defined as a block. Now what I'm trying to say is, I have within this block, I have created this local variable. So this local variable can be accessed only within this block. You can modify within this block. Anything you can do it only within this block. So once this block is done, you can't even access that variable. That's the reason this is called as local variable. And the scope of local variable is block scope. We call it as block scope or local scope because it is defined within the block. Now, when you come and see here, the global variable, you don't have anything, a block where your global variable is defined. That's the reason it is defined outside of your main block or anything. Now this wasn't declared something like this within the parenthesis. This wasn't done. I mean, within the flower brackets, this wasn't done. So that's the reason it is called as global variable, which is defined outside of the block. Now we will dive deep into local variables by taking some examples. Now, what are local variables? We already discussed this. So these are defined within a function. We'll see with examples, or a block are said to be local to that block. So whatever you define inside a block, those are called as local variables defined only within that particular block. Now, what exactly a block means? Anything between opening flower bracket and closing flower bracket is called a block. Anything between that is called as a block. Fine. Now, local variables do not exist outside the block. This is what I said to you, in which they are declared, they cannot be accessed outside the block. This is very important. So once you cross the block, that variable which is defined inside the block is no longer accessible. We'll try to see some examples which will make much clear. Now, this is the main function. I have not included all those packages. I mean, IOStream using namespace std. Assume they are there. This is just the chunk of code which I wanted to explain. Now, this is the main function. Now, obviously, this is the opening bracket and closed bracket. So what does that mean? Now, this is main block. Correct? Now, whatever variables, whatever functions, whatever you declared inside this main block are accessible only within the main. That is what I'm trying to say. Now, what does that mean? I said int x is equal to 5. I declared an integer variable. What happens? In memory, a variable x is created with value 5 at some location 100, assume. At some memory block location 100. Now, this memory block, this variable x is only available inside this main block. Now, when you try to access this variable from any other functions or any other classes, this will not be accessible. That's why this is called as local variable. Fine. Now what is this? This is local variable within main block. This is what you have to understand, within main. Fine. Awesome. Now, what we are saying, if x is greater than 0, is 5 greater than 0? Yes, true. So it says like if true. It is true. Just enter the if block. Now you came inside the if block. Now your main has flower brackets, curly braces, and your if also has curly braces. Now, can I say this as if block? Absolutely. Now, what does this mean? Whatever you declare inside the if block will be available only within the if block. That is what it says. Now we'll see what we are doing within this if block. Now, inside this if block, I'm declaring an integer variable y, whose value is 10. Fine. Y, the value is 10 at some memory location 200. Now, this is called as local variable for sure, because it is within the block. But within which block? That is what we have to be very clear of. It is a local variable within if block. Correct? Now, this is a local variable within if block, and this is a local variable within main block. That is what we have to understand. So what does that mean? Now, this variable is available only within this if block. We'll see how exactly it will work. Now, I'm trying to print value of y. Now, whenever you're dealing with variables, how your compiler reacts to these variables is, whenever you're trying to fetch the variable, your compiler will first check whether that variable is accessible within that block. That is what it does. Now we'll see. I'm trying to print value of y and I'm calling y. I'm trying to print the value of y. What your compiler will do? It will check whether in that block, first ever, in which current block you're present, in that block, whether that value is existing or not. Okay, in this if block, y is existing. Fine, get the value. So this will be printed as 10. So value of y would be 10 here. Fine. Now I'm trying to print value of x. I'm trying to print x. What will your compiler do? It will check whether x is present within that block first. Okay, within if block, I cannot find any x because only y is created, correct? After that, what it will do? It will go to the next outer block because this is the inner block, right? This is the inner if block. Outside of that, what is there? Main block. Now your compiler checks within the main block, is this variable available? Now within this main block, obviously the variable x is available. Now get that value. This is what we are trying to do. So 5 would be printed. Now what does that mean? Even though if in this block, the variable x is not there, it will try to get the value from the outer block if the value is there. Now this variation would be very clear with this example now. Now what I'm saying print the value of x once again. Now tell me now in which block we are there currently. We are outside of the if block, right? So it means I am within the main block. So I'm trying to fetch the value of x within the main block. Do I have an x within the main block? Yes, it is the same one, right? So I'll just print that. Value of x is 5 again. Here I get 5. Now, this is a very important thing. That's the reason I have added this as a comment. Now I am trying to fetch the value of y. whose value is y. Now, what will your compiler do? Your compiler will first check whether this value y is there or not. Now, in which block we are there? Currently, we are there in the main block. Within the main block, there is only one variable, x. There is no other variable, y. Now, what will your function do is, so initially, in the above examples, when we are trying to print y and x, what we did? We first checked the scope of the if block, then we came to the main block. What exactly happens is, even though if the variable is not available in the main block, your compiler will also check whether if it is declared as a global variable. We have some examples which will make it much clear, but remember, it will check the local scope first. It will keep on completing, it will keep on checking the local scope till the main function. Even the variable is not available in the main function, it will check whether if it is available in the global scope. So that is how the scope is ranging. So now after this, it is quite sure, like the variable y is not available within the main block. Now here itself, the compiler won't give any error. It will check whether if it is occurring as a global variable. What is global variable? Global variable is nothing but you define it outside the main block. Outside the main block, do we have any variables which is saying like y? No. Now your compiler will give an error saying that value of y doesn't exist within the block specified or something like that, or something like cannot find variable y. So that's the reason I've commented this. It will give an error. So what is the scope priority? We understood. So local scope is always greater than global scope. Yes or no? Why? Because your compiler always checked locally. If your variable is present in this block, if your variable is present in this main block, then only it went to global scope. So the priority of scope for local scope is very much. Then because first it checks for local scope, then only it checks for global scope if local variables are not present. So this is the output. Now we'll check for the other examples. Always remember the main function is the first function which will start executing. So okay, inside main function, what I'm saying, I'm calling something called as my function. So from here, now I'll come here. Now inside this function, I'm declaring or defining some variable x with value 5 at some memory location. Assume it is 50. Fine. Now what I'm saying, I'm printing local variable x. I'm trying to print the value x. Now I'm trying to fetch the value x. Is x present inside the block? Which block? This block. Correct? Because what is block defined as? Anything between curly braces. Now here, this one is called as function block. We have seen what is main block. We have seen what is if block. We have seen what is function block now. So only the name is changing. Main block, if block, function block, class block, everything. Only name changes, but the concept is same. What is a block? Whenever you declare a variable inside a block, that variable would be accessed or available only within that block. Here it is function. That's the reason it is called as function block. Okay, fine. Now I'm trying to fetch the value x, which is available in this block. I'll just print 5 here. So value of x is 5 now here. I mean, the local variable x is 5 here. Fine. After this, I don't have anything. My function is done. Then again, I'll come back. I'll check here. I'm trying, this is commented because this will give a compile time error if you try to do this, because I'm trying to print value of x. I'm trying to fetch x. What will your compiler do? It will check whether x is present in this main block. No, x is not present. After that, what your compiler will do? It will go outside of your main and check whether x is defined as a global variable. Is x defined as global variable anywhere? No. Now you will get a compile time error here. Compile error saying that cannot find x. So that's the reason I have commented this. Okay. In print statement, this should have actually been something like local variable x. Correct? Because we never printed this value. We just got local variable x. Fine. So this is the concept of local variables. So just in a nutshell, what are local variables? The variable which you define within a block. They are created within the block, accessed within the block, or modified within the block. Once the block completes, you cannot touch those local variables because the scope of that local variables is gone. The scope of the local variables was only within that block. Okay, fine. Now we'll see what are global variables. Now, global variables can be accessed from any part of the program. Why? Because those variables are not defined within any block. That's the reason I said you, like global variables are outside of the main function at the top. So those are not defined between any curly braces. So it can be accessed from any part of the program. Fine. Now it is available throughout the life of the program, obviously. Now, what is the lifetime of a local variable? The lifetime of a local variable is only within the block. Yes or no? Once the block is completed, that local variable is gone. But global variable is not defined within any block. So the lifetime is like throughout the program. What does throughout the program mean? Until and unless your main function execution gets completed, till then your global variable would be available. That is what it means, lifetime. Now, they are declared at the top of the program, correct? Outside all the functions or blocks. Even main is a function, so outside all the functions or blocks. So this is the just a brief introduction to global variables. We'll see examples. Now, this is how you declare a global variable. This is called as global variable. Why? It is outside all the functions. How many functions we have? We have two functions, display and main. It is outside all the functions and after the package declarations. So this is called as global variable. Fine. Now the first function which will be executed is main function. I came here. I'm calling directly display function. Fine. From here, I came here. Now what I'm saying, cout global. Okay. Now my compiler understood that, okay, global is some kind of variable. I have to print that. What will your compiler do? It will check whether that variable is first present in your local block. I mean, within this display function block. No, I cannot find anything. After that, what we will do? It will go and check whether that particular variable is present in the global scope. Is that variable present? Yes, global is available here. That value would be printed. Now you can understand local scope is much more priority compared to global scope. Correct, right? So first it has found out whether that variable is present in this function. No, only then it went to the global variable and fetched that value. So here the value is 5. Next, this function is completed, correct? Then I come to the main function back. Now I'm saying global is equal to 10. Now my compiler realized that, okay, global is a variable and I'm trying to modify that variable. Now, what will my compiler do? It will first check whether that variable is present within the main block. Is global present here? No, it's not present. Then what does that mean? I'm obviously trying to modify some global variable. Here, the global variable is 5. Now that is modified to 10. This is what will happen here. Because there is no local variable, we are trying to modify the global variable. Now again, I'm calling the display function. So it means from here, again, I'll come here. Again, I'll print global. Now the modified value is 10. This is what gets printed. And then I'm done with my function. So this is how global variables work. And does that statement agree? It can be accessed from any part of the program. Yes. Is it available throughout the lifetime of the program? Yes. Until and unless my main function got completed, this variable was accessible. So this is how it works. We'll see further examples. Again, here I have declared something called as a global variable. What I'm saying here, x is a variable with some value 7 at some address 20, assume in memory block. Now, I'll start my main block. Be careful here. Here, what we are doing, again, there is already a variable x which is declared as a global variable. Now, inside the main function, again, I'm trying to define a variable which is already there. Now, suppose, for example, instead of int x is equal to 2, assume we just had x is equal to 2. What would have happened here? What does this mean? I'm trying to assign value 2 to x, correct? Now, what will your compiler do? It will first check whether value x is available inside the main block. No, it is not available. Then what it will do? It will go to the global variable and then it will assign this to 2. This is which would have happened if I just said x is equal to 2. But now I'm declaring and defining a variable here. So now we will see what will happen in this case. So this was 7 only, right? Yeah. So now I'm saying int x is equal to 2. There is no compile error which you will get. The variable would be created. So here, there is another variable x with name 2 at some memory location, maybe 100, something like that. So what does that mean? Why we didn't get any error? Because this is where your scope comes. This is global scope and this is local scope. So whenever you try to declare a variable, now what does that mean? This variable x and this variable x both are different. Why? Because this variable x is only available within the main block, whereas this variable x is available throughout the program. Now the question comes, Now I'm trying to print the value of X. Which value would be printed? We already discussed this regarding the scope priority. What was that? Local scope priority is always greater than global scope. What does that mean? First, your compiler checks whether X is available within the main block. Is X available within the main block? Yes. Then go and fetch this value. So the output is 2 here. If this statement wouldn't have been in your main block, then this value would have been printed. Awesome. Now the concept comes like, now what if there are some situations I know that there are two variables called as X, which is a global variable and a local variable. And when I try to print the value X, it is taking the local variable only by default, because when I just say X, by default, it is only taking the local variable, correct? It's not taking global variable. Now, what if I want to access global variable? Assume this is the same situation. I have a global variable and local variable with the same name. But when I say X, I don't want my local variable value, but I want my global variable value. In that case, how we have to do? So there comes something called as scope resolution operator. You have to use some special operator in C++. So that will help you to do that. In C++, the scope resolution operator is this one. This is what you have to do. Now, how this can be used? This is used to access global variable when there is a local variable with the same name. So this is what our use case is, right? We are trying to fetch the global variable value instead of local variable. So we'll take the example. Again, I have a global variable here whose value is 4 at some memory location. Assume it is 100. Now inside main function also, I have a local variable. Okay. It is the same variable X with value 10 at some address 50. Assume. Now, when I print value of X, and if I just call X, what will happen? The local variable will be fetched. What is the local variable value? 10. So with the value of X, when I print, I'll get it 10. Now I don't want local variable value. I want global variable value. Then you use something called as scope resolution parameter. So the value of X is, you just say like this. This is the operator which we use, scope resolution operator. So when you say this, what this means is, don't get me the value of X, which is locally available. Get me outside of this. I mean, currently this is the main block, right? I don't want the value of X, which is present in the main block. Get me the value of X outside of the main block. This is what it means. So this will actually give me, now it will not consider this value outside of main. Obviously I have a global variable whose value is 4. I'll get 4. So this is how you can get the global values, even though if you have same names. I mean, even though if your local variables and global variables have the same names, this is how we can use to fetch the global variable values. Fine, we'll see some more examples. Now, what is this again? This is the same global variable X, whose value is 5 at some address 50. Now, what is the first function which we execute? Main function. Now, inside main function, what I'm saying, I'm just printing global variable X as X. First, your compiler will check whether X is present inside your main block. No, it is not present. Then go outside of the main block. Do you have a global variable? Yes, just print that value. I'm saying 5 here. So my global variable is 5 now. And then I'm calling something called as my function. So my function is already there. So from here, now I'll come to this point. Fine. Now here again, I'm saying int X is equal to 10. Okay. Now X value is 10 at some memory location 200. Now this is what a local variable, but within my function. This is a function name, right? Within my function. Okay, fine. Now again, a block can be created anyway. I said you main block, I said you if block, and we also discussed about function block, and this is called as nested block. I mean, we have a block that doesn't have any name. That is still possible. This is called as nested block. This is called as a nested block within the function block. Now within this block, what I am saying again, int X is equal to 15. Okay, I again created a variable X with value 15 at some other location 300. Now again, this will not give any error because we are not declaring two variables of same name within the same block. If I said int X is equal to 15 here, I would have got error. But this is different block and this is different block. I won't get any compile time error. So I said int X is equal to 15, fine. Now what I'm saying, see out nested local variable X, what will happen? When I try to fetch the value X, it will first check within that block. Now it will check within that block. Do I have X as 15? Yes. Then go and print that value. I'll get 15. Here I'll get 15. Fine. Now I came outside of this block. Now I'm trying to print the value of X as local variable. Now it will check within this block, within this function, if X is available. Is X available? Yes. Its value is 10. 10 would be printed here. And done. The function is done. So once you say return 0 or whenever your main function is completed, your global variable will also expire. That is the time when your global variable lifetime is completed. This is how it works. So these are the concepts of local variables and global variables. I hope it was very clear. Thank you so much.